Blind drawing is an awesome technique for building your drawing skills. It's the best way to build eye-hand coordination for an artist. Just like a weightlifter needs to lift weights and a runner needs to run, artists need to draw, and blind drawing is one of the best tools in your tool belt to learn how to draw things accurately. The weird thing is that when you draw in this blind style, things look awful. They look weird, but that's a good thing. And you'll start to recognize that your eye-hand coordination gets better and better the more that you do it. When I was in high school, I struggled to draw people and make them look realistic. And now I do paintings and drawings that look like photographs, and some people mistake them for photos. And this is one of the key techniques that helped me get there. This isn't something that I invented. This is something that's been used by Picasso and Matisse many, many years ago. So they were pioneers in this technique, and it's still being used today by artists and in colleges and in drawing programs. So again, it's called blind drawing, but it doesn't mean maybe what you think. A lot of people assume blind drawing means you close your eyes and you draw. That's not going to be helpful. It's not going to teach you anything. In actuality, you need to look very, very carefully, but not at your hands as you work. This may sound bizarre, but you already do it if you play video games. When you're playing a video game and you have the controller in your hands and you're looking at the game, you don't do this and then watch the game, look at your fingers, watch the game. No, you actually kind of know where the buttons are, know where the toggles are, know where everything is, and your body kind of gets into it, and you know where it is because your eyes and your hands are well coordinated. So this technique is going to be right up your alley. So we kind of think of the pen as the controller, and your eyes are sort of following the path that your pen needs to kind of take and control your character as you do this drawing. So I want to show you some examples of blind drawing so you understand that these are going to look weird. You need to let go of the idea that you want it to come out looking great or like a photograph, because it's not. This is probably the most honest form of abstraction that's out there. When you see an artwork that looks different from reality, we call that abstracted. And this is an easy way to do it, and there's some benefits along the way. So this is a completely blind drawing. I did not look at my hands while I was using the pen to draw this. And I didn't even look when I lifted the pen and placed it into a new area. So this is completely blind. But you can see the angles in the eye, the angles in the lips, those kinds of things might tell you who that person is if you had 4 people in a room. So there's enough information here to kind of identify that I've been paying attention to the angles and the curves within this lady's face. Another kind is what I call a semi-blind drawing, where I have a few peaks. So this one is where I allowed myself 4 times to peek. So I had to think carefully, when am I going to peek to lift my pen and place it down again? So it's a little bit more cohesive, but it still has this kind of openness and this unusual overlapping that's sort of happening in the drawing. It's abstracted. It's not unpleasurable. It's a nice drawing. It's abstracted in an interesting sort of way visually, so I'm not unhappy with the drawing, but it is showing me that I am capturing the angles and the curves that make this person's face unique. The way that I normally draw is fully semi-blind, which means that I'm doing the lines while I'm not looking at my hands, but I am looking when I place down my pen. So I've kind of graduated to this sort of technique for most of the drawings that I do. And I don't tell people I'm doing a blind drawing, but sometimes you'll see an artist, they're moving their hands and doing the drawing, but they're not really looking at their hands. They're kind of naturally blind drawing. And they look down to kind of move their pencil or pen from place to place. And that's what I did here. So I'm still capturing the lines that make one eye slightly different than the other. This one has more curves. This one has more angles. The top lip is thinner than the bottom lip. And I'm able to capture these things through blind drawing that maybe if I was just doing a quick drawing of a person's face, I might not capture otherwise. Blind drawing forces you to really slow down and see the details that make one part unique from another. I love it as a drawing technique. I exhibit these, in galleries when I have shows. So this is semi-blind, where I'm looking only when I place down my pen, but I don't look when I'm actually drawing the lines. And then there's the second part to the drawing. How can I take a simple linear drawing and make it more interesting as an artwork? Well, I add cross-hatching to it. And this gives me a sense of depth, a sense of layers. And I like line with line, and it kind of works really well as a drawing technique, a linear drawing technique. The other nice thing is with blind drawing, you just go right to the pen. You don't do a drawing in pencil and then redo it in pen and then go ahead and erase out. It's just right there, right in front of you, and it's just done in one motion. So I am looking for the cross-hatching, but I am not looking as I draw the lines, and then you get this sort of open quality, this interesting abstraction going on in the figure. Sometimes I allow myself to look less because I want the drawing to be more abstracted. And here, there's very little information in the lines, and it's very open, but we can definitely tell there's a student there, she's drawing, we have an environment in front of her, a little cross-hatching to give us this sense of space. But this one is less defined. It is more loose, and I allowed myself to look less as I moved my pen around because I wanted it to be more abstract. Now, those were with cross-hatching, but you can certainly use color as the technique. So on watercolor paper, I did a portrait of one of my students. I threw in some cross-hatching while I was looking, and I painted the colors while I was looking. You could certainly do it without looking. That might be interesting and make it more abstract, but I think the abstract lines juxtaposed with the more realized painting works really well. I like that kind of juxtaposition, one against the other. So open lines, but maybe a more closed painting technique. I let it be loose because the lines are loose, so it's kind of unified that way. But again, this is with watercolor. Here's one that was a completely blind drawing of some flowers. So I didn't have to worry about the petals being in the exact placement where they were in the actual flower that I was looking at. If a petal is a little to the left, a little to the right, it's still a petal. So in this case, I let it be totally blind. I did not look at my hand when I did any of the lines that are in this drawing, but I certainly did look when I used color pencil to color it in. And I go ahead and modulated my colors and did some shading in there to make it look three-dimensional, but the lines make it abstract. And there are areas that are incomplete, so I had to kind of decide where was the color going to end. This line does not touch the next line, so it's not enclosed, so I just closed it with the color. And I like this abstract, loose sort of look to the drawing. Here's another watercolor combination with some cross-hatched lines. Again, another student, they were doing a drawing of themselves with a little mirror, so I was drawing them drawing themselves. This is semi-blind, so I probably looked about 3 or 4 times while I did this drawing, and then I allowed it to be kind of loose, and then threw in some watercolor and cross-hatching to finish it up. And one more that was completely blind, a radio, so it's kind of geometric. Doesn't have to be a person, doesn't have to be an organic thing. This was just, a radio. And I decided I was going to do the lines completely blind, but then I let the color be done and the cross-hatching while I was looking. And I like the open, abstract quality to this, but it also helps coordinate my brain. My eye-hand coordination was strengthened by this exercise. So I'm going to do one for you right here, probably a little faster than I should because I don't want to bore you, but I want you to see what the technique sort of looks like. So I have this little statuette of Hermes. It's a reproduction of a Greek statue. There used to be a little figure on the back, but in ancient times, things broke off. And if you're doing this for the first time, it's going to be very hard for you not to look at your hands. You will want to look at your hands and cheat. So what I do is I create this little cheat sheet, just a blank piece of copy paper. You can poke a hole through it with a pencil and then set your pen through that hole and hold it from underneath. This way you're not apt to look down and kind of cheat by accident, because this will feel very unnatural in the beginning. After a while, you won't need the paper, just trust the technique. But in the beginning, you're probably going to need that extra piece of paper. And again, you need to let go of your need for the drawing to be beautiful or correct. This is going to look unusual. It's supposed to. But when you look back at the details, you look at how you drew the eye, one eye from the other, and you'll notice, did you catch the curves? Did you catch the angles? And that's what your brain is starting to learn this eye-hand coordination. So you're going to take all of your gaming experience and pour it into your pen. So I'm going to take this off for me so that you can see how it is that I'm drawing. And I've got my figure in front of me, and I need to pick a part to start at. And I'm going to give myself 3 peaks only. All right, so I'm going to have a semi-blind sort of drawing. So I want to pick a space that I can easily remember and go back to. So I'm going to start on the corner of the shoulder that's been cut off here. And I'm going to go ahead and draw up the figure. And I want to go slowly and catch, like, this area is sort of straight. This area is a little curved. This has a curve upward a little bit. I want to catch the angles and the curves. That's what I'm paying attention to while I draw. And it's almost like I'm imagining a laser coming out of my eye and going to that, and I'm controlling the laser by using my pen as I go around the figure. You want to avoid doing anything that's like a jig-jag sort of thing. A lot of people do that with hair. They see hair and they're just like, oh, I do that texture. You need to stop and look at the edges and what are the main chunks that you see and draw those main chunks. Don't try and shorten it or draw some kind of texture. Only draw what you can actually see. So I'm going to go ahead and imagine that laser going to this corner. I'm going to place down my pen. I'm going to draw up the shoulder. I see a straight part, angle, another angle, and then that curve up to the hand. I'm going to draw the back edge of the hand and notice the curves that I see in it. And then go back to the other finger, and then the third finger that's overlapped, and I can see the bottom of that finger, and then it's overlapped by the front finger, and that's overlapped by the thumb that has this little curve in it, goes down to the wrist. Then I'm going to go ahead and jump to the end of the hand. I'm not looking yet, and I'm going to go ahead and now, from where I'm seeing, this connects to his cheek. So now I'm at the cheek. So I'm going to go ahead and go up the head, up the cheek to the eyebrow. I'm going to go ahead from the eyebrow down the nose. The front of the nose is rather squared off, and then I have the curve around the edge. I'm going to jump over to the lips, catch the upper lip, which is really thin. Lower lip is a little thicker. Then I jump again to the other eyebrow, and this time I am going to look and catch that eyebrow edge, the eye that I see within it. Then I'm going to go ahead and jump back to where I believe the brow and the hair meet. So I'm going to make a guess. I'm just going to go ahead and put it down. And now when I get to the hair, I'm going to catch the main chunks that I see. I'm not drawing every little in and out. I'm just kind of catching the main ones as I go around. I don't need to get any of the inner texture yet. I could go back later and add that in if I like to, but I'm trying to catch the shape of the main chunks of hair. It's almost like pretending that somebody's wearing a rubber wig when you're doing the hair, and you can see that I'm looking very carefully at the figure, and now I'm at the ear. Catch the earlobe, the inside edge of the ear, little shape. Then I'm going to go down to the chin. And this time I am going to look. And I'm going to go ahead and catch the chin line. And then maybe up to the nose. I'm not going to look. Make another jump. So I'm at the back of the head on the neck. Capture that. The back. The shoulder. There's some angles here I want to capture. This is where the sculpture is cut off. Under the arm, across the chest, and then the pectoral muscle, back to the arm, and I'm going to catch the base. And again, when I lift my pen, I'm not looking where I'm placing it. I'm letting it be abstract, letting it be unusual, and try and catch the lines. I think I've got everything, so let me look back, and there he is. So it's very unusual, it's very open, it's very abstract, but I can definitely see this kind of edge is mimicking the edge that I see here. The angularity I see in the nose is the angularity that I'm seeing here. The little hand and the overlaps are fairly correct. But this is an abstracted drawing, and I could go in and put in some color or play with cross-hatching or whatever it is that I want to, or I can just keep it in my sketchbook and do another one the next day. But this technique, this blind drawing technique, is going to be the best thing in your tool belt as an artist to improve your drawing and looking skills, that eye-hand coordination. And you may find after you do it a while, you get a little bit of a headache because your brain is working overtime. You're doing something that you're not used to. But that is building those neuron connections, and that's a good thing. So do it for a little while, take a little bit of a break, and then come back to it. I would say do it once a day in your sketchbook, while you're doing your classwork or your artwork, and you're going to find that it definitely is going to build skills. So I hope you found this helpful, and go ahead and give some blind drawing a try. Thank you, and have a great day.